The world is in turmoil. The way the world works has been turned on its head. Billions are being spent to keep the world economy afloat, and around the globe, millions of people are facing an uncertain future. But out of crisis comes perhaps an opportunity to rebuild something better. Well, tonight on Sky News, our working life after the pandemic and our new world. A very good evening, I'm Dermot Monahan. Now, over the course of this week, I'm speaking to some of the leading lights in the worlds of culture, politics, science, and tonight, economics. Joining us a live virtual studio audience from all around the world who will be asking questions about how we can build a new future. And I say from around the world, they're from Mexico, Ghana, Italy, Spain, Greece, Argentina, and of course the United Kingdom. Now, facing them, we have a Nobel Prize-winning economist, Professor Joseph Stiglitz, the former chief executive of BP, Lord Brown. We also have the economist Stephanie Kelton, former advisor to the US Democratic Party, and joining them, Stephen Moore, a member of President Trump's coronavirus task force for the economy. Welcome to you all. So with jobs, finance and economics now under a strain not felt for many generations, tonight we look at the future for the economy and the world of work. Time for another question from our virtual audience, and I know it's a specific one. Phil Docking, who joins us from Crete. Very good evening to you, Phil. And what would you like to ask?
Good evening. Well, given the predictions that the job market will contract drastically after the pandemic, isn't it time to ditch the capitalism-light model of full employment and start working on more progressive economic policies such as universal basic income?
Aha, universal basic income. I wondered when that might come up. From Phil there, Joseph Stiglitz nodding along there. Well, for the uninitiated, like most of us, what is it? How does it work? I know it's been tried out in some countries, in some areas. Just explain the bones of this policy.
Well, universal basic income says you'll give money to everybody, universal. A basic level that allows them to survive, and it says not means tested. You don't have application forms. You don't have to go through a bureaucracy. Everybody gets it. Well, I'm not a big fan of universal basic income, and the reason for that is very simple. Right now, and for the next 15, 20, 25 years, we have an enormous amount of things that need to be done. We have to finance the green transition. We have huge deficiencies in our infrastructure. There are people who need health care. We have a large number of jobs that need to be done. And we have people who want to work. That mismatch is the failing of our market economy today. And what we need to do is to say everybody who wants a job and is able to get to work ought to have a job. That was the commitment in the United States what we made in the Full Employment Act of 1948. And that should be our primary commitment today. And it's exactly what Stephanie is saying. There are lots of people who want to work. There's dignity associated with work. And our failure is not to have our economic system provide that work, given all the things that need to be done today.
Okay, so jobs, not free money, not a universal basic income. In your estimation there, Professor, let's see if our audience agree with you. Another straw poll, if you would very much appreciate this. Let me ask you about the universal basic income. How many of you would like to see a change in the way the economy works? Put your hands up if you would support a universal basic income. Now you know how it works after listening to Professor Stiglitz. And let me add the rider in there, even if it meant a significant increase in taxes. So here's the question. Hands up if you would support a universal basic income, even if it meant a significant increase in taxes. Well, 80%. Disagreeing perhaps with Joseph Stiglitz. And Lord Brown, let me ask you, isn't it then a disincentive to work? If you've got just enough to live on being given to you by the state, why would you work?
Well, part of it is, I think, explained in dignity. I think people do actually want to work in the large bulk. But it's right that there should be not disincentives. It's crazy if people earn more money by not working rather than actually working. So we need to think very carefully. And we've been, I think the nations have moved from, basic minimum wage to living wage, and there are progressive changes here, which I think we shouldn't stand in the way of. I mean, there'll be more changes. You're absolutely right. We've got tons of things to do. We need people in work. We need them trained in the right way. But to get the economy to be really green, to get net zero emissions, we need brand new jobs. I think in healthcare, we've seen probably a lack of people who do one thing that only humans can do, which is to give people empathy. Probably we need more workers in this particular area. And then as to infrastructure, there's so much of it that needs replacing for a modern economy that there's a huge amount to do there. So I think that there's a lot which has to be done. We need to encourage and inspire people to want to have these jobs.
And Stephanie Kelson, just your view on the universal basic income. Well, you said before, Professor Stiglitz, that it should be about jobs. But don't we then end up with work creation schemes, governments paying people to dig holes and fill them in again?
No, what you end up with, I think, in a properly run public service employment or job guarantee program are the local communities themselves engaging in the process and deciding what they value and the kind of work that would be the most meaningful, add the most value to their lives and their community. So what you might imagine is a program that is federally funded, but highly decentralized, locally administered, so that people in, I'll use the U.S. case, in northeastern Oklahoma know best what the needs of that community are. The federal government does not, but the federal government can provide the funding so that people can be hired and employed. We did this in the New Deal era. We had the Works Progress Administration. We had the Civilian Conservation Corps. We had a jobs program for young people called the National Youth Administration. So FDR rolled out a whole alphabet soup of public job programs, and we could seriously consider modeling job programs today on something like that. It wouldn't preclude a basic income. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, and other civil rights leaders, they said there should be a basic income for those who cannot or should not work. And so we can decide as a society who falls into those categories of, people that should not be in the workforce, but there ought to be a way for those who want to work to have employment if they choose it and can't find it anywhere else in the economy. As Joe said, there is a great deal of work, as both of them said. There is plenty of work that needs to be done.
Okay.